think we should be live. Let me know if you can see and hear everything okay. I am a one-man show right now. This is a live news update just on some controversy that popped up overnight. I wanted to get this all covered in one go, so it is not an edited video. If you're watching later, I apologize. But this blew up really fast, and I'd like to get back to work on the other things I was doing. So I'm working one-man show right now. Let me know if you can hear and see everything okay. This is going to be short. We're going to just kind of get through this story, get it over with, so I get back to the other content. People say it works. Okay, cool. So, thank you. Yeah, so first of all, heads up, I'm not going to be taking like all the super chats like normally. I might read one or two, but I don't want, please, if you want me to like read your thing, save that for another stream, because I don't want to be here all night because it's 3:30 a.m. right now, and I've still got 4 hours of work left. So, all right. The quick recap for you is there was a controversy that popped up. This will be an archive on the channel later. It was a live show really late, and I will recap it for you, and then I'm going to cover MSI's statement that they put out. I basically spent all night on, someone says, so I can get back to other content. No, you go to bed, young man. That's from Navalis. So I was on the phone for a couple hours, about 2 hours, with a lot of people all over the industry, a couple people at MSI off record. And so we have some information for you to share. MSI did share a statement as well. I want to share some insight and sort of talk about responsible like reporting and responsible reactions to things. Quick recap. MSI controversy. Basically, there was a Reddit thread that popped up that said that showed links to an MSI 3080 gaming trio, I think it was, listed for about 2 times MSRP. And this is in line with behavior that you've all seen at this point from individuals, meaning not necessarily companies, from individuals over the past several weeks for all brands, basically scalping cards. And so with the context of cards getting sold at scalper prices for the last few weeks, plus the context of MSI video card at $1,400, basically this was another one of those, this looks like a scalper situation. The difference this time was that the card was officially listed by an account which was indirectly tied to MSI. So that's the story. Basically, this then blew up on Reddit as MSI is scalping its customers, and MSI is selling its video card for 2 times MSRP to try and, I don't know if profiteer is maybe legally not the correct word, I'm not sure, I know that has a legal definition, but let's say maximize the profits on a product during a time when it is difficult to obtain that product. So coming from potentially a first party, at the time this all happened, that wasn't confirmed, from potentially a first party is what made this the story that it was, as opposed to from some random scalper on the internet. That's why this blew up the way it did. So I'm sorry, I'm like a little offbeat on my sentence patterns versus normally because I'm trying to keep an eye over here to make sure I'm not losing connection or anything. I don't have Andrew here to monitor the camera this time. All right, so that's the recap. If you missed it all, there was a lot of Reddit sleuthing going on, and some of it was actually pretty good work. We were doing some of the same stuff on our own end, and there was also some of it that was like super jumping to conclusions in a potentially very harmful way, not necessarily to MSI, but just like in general to the industry. So I'll talk about that a little bit too, but some of the interesting stuff that came up was people digging through like patent filings, trademarks, stuff like that. I guess it was trademarks mostly, not patents. So first of all, be careful when you're looking up trademarks and to whom they are registered, because it doesn't necessarily tell you the whole story. In this case, the what was it called? Starlit Partners, I think is the name of the eBay account that was selling these cards. In this case, that company is a subsidiary of MSI that was at this point confirmed, or at least a partner working directly with MSI. I guess I should probably read MSI's statement before I kind of go off and explain the rest of this. So let's do that. So this is MSI's statement. Hopefully this thing pops up on screen okay. This was on their Twitter account. Let's read this before we go any further. MSI took a few hours to put this out, which is really not bad considering the time it is. US had to respond to this. I was on the phone with people in Taiwan. It's late enough where when I called Taiwan and they answered the phone and I said, 你会说中文吗? Which is a really stupid question because I asked them if they speak Chinese. And what I meant to ask was, 你会说英文吗? So do you speak English? So anyway, it's late enough that that was happening. But yeah, so we talked to them, and this is the statement that came out shortly after that. The people we spoke with internally were not aware of this controversy when we first reached out to them. So that's how kind of fresh it was. So there, the statement's on the screen, but they said Starlit Partners is an individual sales subsidiary working under MSI, and it says they carry excess inventory and refurbished items, will not be given newly released products, and you can read the rest of it. But basically, I guess where's the main thing we need to point out here? Starlit Partners has been instructed to contact the individual customers who purchased these graphics card products and offer two options. 1, return the product and receive a full refund, or 2, a partial refund of the amount paid over MSRP. So that is the super important bit of information. And Michael Turpia, Steve speaks Mandarin, 一点点. I've been studying for about a year and a half. Moving forward, MSI will enforce a stricter policy to avoid situations like this happening again. So, let me get this off the screen. That's on the Twitter account if you want to read it. Alright, so then, now that that's all stated, MSI's side is stated, and the initial controversy is stated, what did we learn? First of all, I guess my thoughts, first of all, immediate thought is on Twitter, email, Reddit tags everywhere, we were getting slammed with people asking for us to look into this. That is very cool. I very much appreciate that. It's so much different than it used to be, but people like come to us now and say, you got to get in on this. So that's awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you for sending me tips and heads ups, because that's how we stay on top of the industry. These did evolve to a point where I put out a tweet saying like, okay, we got it. Like, I know, I'm looking into it, give me a minute. So normally after a little bit, the message gets to us, and if it's like 4 hours later, we probably are aware of it. So it became like enough where I was actually having trouble working on talking to the people I needed to talk to because of the amount of notifications we were getting. All right, so my thoughts, number one, I do genuinely, and I see Hardware Unboxed in the chat, and I was talking with him about this, I do genuinely think that the community overall does need to like give people a little bit of time to look into things before going full meltdown. We've seen this a few times lately, like with the capacitor stuff, where it's so instant, the influx of people who are freaking out about an issue. It blindsides all of us in media to the extent that we kind of have trouble researching it properly, and there's this tremendous pressure of like, you have to, people want that reaction. People, a lot of, maybe not our audience, but a lot of people are looking for that gut reaction of what's your, like reacting to a video, to music. What's your reaction of this news? Not necessarily what is the news, what's the responsible reporting of the news, but what is your reaction to it? So that's one of the things that I was kind of complaining to Hardware Unboxed about, where it's like, I wish we could maybe get a little bit away from that, but that's way bigger than the hardware industry. It's a much wider issue. So, in the future, when these things pop up, if you've told us about it, just know that we're probably working on it, but also know that we're not going to respond like instantly with a gut instinct reaction, because we're probably trying to collect all the information before we just say stuff. Same thing we did with the capacitor and the frequency stuff, where on stream last time I said I don't want to talk about this right now because I haven't read about it and I don't know all the information. I could make stuff up and just kind of say what I think based on what chat tells me, but that's not really what I want to do. So that's first thing I want to get out of the way is that. Second thing is what MSI did, what looks like is going on. So we spoke with a lot of people in the industry, like I said. I actually called Linus as well and said, hey, what's your experience from the former retailer side of things? How did it work? So I talked with a lot of people, and the initial reaction I got from most people, other than Linus, who knew about this, was, what MSI controversy? What are you talking about? which is kind of amusing because this is like talking to a lot of people in the video card industry, and they hadn't heard about it yet. So that's how fast it blew up, where this was like the biggest story on Reddit, on Twitter, and the industry partners who compete with MSI, who work at MSI, the employees of MSI, a lot of the people we spoke to hadn't even heard of this yet. So first thing I did was I called the customer support line, the public-facing customer support line. I did that immediately for MSI because I was worried that by the time I called, if I had waited a bit, then word might have gotten down the chain to say, like, don't talk to customers about this issue. So I called as a customer, not as press. I spoke to not a press representative, not a PR person, and I said, if you missed the beginning of this video, it's recapping what I'm talking about now. But I said, pretended I was a customer of that eBay listing. And I said, I'm just a customer. I'm afraid that I got scammed on eBay. I purchased an MSI product. It was a 3080. It was more expensive than it should have been, but I really needed it. And so I bought the 3080 on eBay, and I'm worried I got scammed by a non-genuine reseller of MSI products. So that was my first step. I recorded the call too, but we're not doing an upload, so we won't. I would have probably shoved it into an upload. But that representative immediately went to eBay and checked the listing. I sent that representative to, we had found this independently, but the internet also found it, to rebate.msi computer, or is it computer? I think it's computer, no S at the end, .com. And that redirects to the Starlit Partners website, and sent that customer service rep a few different places related to this Starlit company selling the cards. And my ultimate question was, did I get scammed? Is this like an official MSI seller? Now, this is a customer service rep who is way down on the chain, probably has no idea what the salespeople are doing. No discredit, obviously, or disrespect to that person. The point being that they are not high enough in the hierarchy of the company to really need to be exposed to the sales data. So that stated, the customer service rep told me after looking around, said, no, that's not legit, that's not us. That turned out to not be true. I'm not going to blame MSI, the company, for that, because I asked as non-media, as a customer, pretending I was like scared I got scammed. So I'm not going to blame the company for that response. But that rep said initially that it wasn't a legitimate seller. So that gave me a little bit of hope that maybe this was a scam that popped up and it was like extremely elaborate with like fake address, or actually a real address, but MSI's. So someone says WTF is going on. There was a short version, MSI controversy, that MSI was selling its own video cards on eBay for double the price. That's the short version. And so internet was mad, as it should be if that's the case, because the card was sold at equivalent to scalper prices, basically by what appeared to be a sort of a first party. It's like first party indirectly through some sleuthing people found out related to MSI. The actual listing, I think, was under Starlit Partners. That's the story to kind of quickly recap for people in chat. So, yeah, ultimately, we spoke with people at MSI. I called MSI Taiwan, and they were not familiar with the matter at the time. They called internally. Eventually, they called MSI US, which will absolutely not talk to me, I think. I'm pretty sure if I went to MSI US, they would be like, go screw yourself. Like, because if you haven't seen it, we had a video called, what was it? It was just Killshot. MSI Killshot. Go search MSI Killshot Gamers Nexus. You'll see what I'm talking about. MSI was probably going to be the last company to give me an official statement. So we got it publicly. But I spoke with people there, just not in an official capacity. So yeah, they definitely hate us after that video, I'm sure. But the right people that we know at the company, with whom we've worked for many years, they knew that we were just speaking the truth in that video, and so they were, they'll normally talk to us, just not officially with a statement or PR or anything. So yeah, end of the day, this is a problem where MSI, let me pull up their statement again to get the exact phrasing that they used. Starlet is an individual sales subsidiary working under MSI. I would say that's probably an accurate statement based on what we've seen. I mean, obviously it is, but in terms of like, have they twisted this statement? Not really. That's pretty accurate. So Starlet Partner is part of MSI. It is apparently based at MSI's headquarters. Oh, this is what I wanted to explain earlier. It's late. It's like almost 4 a.m., so I kind of lost track. What I wanted to explain earlier was in talking with the partners in the industry, it is now my understanding that somewhat profoundly, it's often one person responsible for the eBay listings at these companies. So even if they might have a fairly large sales team, it's typically one person doing eBay selling. And the end result of that is, depending on the company, that person may have a lot of freedom and independence to just kind of do what they want with the products, or they might have to go through multiple layers of management. In the case of MSI, it appears to be the case that the person who's doing the eBay stuff is perhaps allowed a little bit too much flexibility on how they develop the eBay listings. So they set the price, it looks like they set the description, and this is MSI's responsibility. It is MSI's mistake. MSI is offering a return and a refund or a partial refund to cover the difference, so that's good. But this isn't like hand-waving that because it's one person, it's not somehow MSI's fault. Obviously it is. This is obviously a problem. And they did say, moving forward, MSI will enforce a stricter policy to avoid situations like this. So that's all mostly good. It's just unfortunate that happened to begin with. One person just means easy PR cleanup. You have no idea what you're talking about. One person is actually the case for the eBay listings for most of these companies. And I'll tell you why I know. If you call Starlet Partners support line, which we did, that line goes to a voicemail and it answers something like, "Hello, this is Philip. Leave a message." Philip is that's the company number for support for Starlet Partners. And it's answered by Philip, who, from what we can tell, appears to be an MSI employee. We got access to an employee listing, and it looks like that may be the case. Can't 100% confirm that. Like strictly in terms of the formal definition of employee of a company. That's the part I can't confirm. Does work for or on behalf of MSI. Can confirm. So, so it is actually one person handling that. Now, there is management that's involved, and it is management's fault as well, and it is that person's fault as well. But just to give you the sense of scale for things, that's how it happened. Typically, the way this works is the person who controls the eBay listings will go to a PM or someone else in procurement who's in control of inventory at some level, and they then will list that inventory for sale. And sometimes that inventory is refurbished stock. Sometimes it's B stock, like maybe stock that was rejected for a scuff or a bad bin, or I don't know, maybe it's missing like a phase in the VRM, something like that. Something where it still works but not optimally. Or it could be new inventory too. Now, someone says, or a contractor. That's exactly what I was getting at when I said the official relationship. So, let's see, their exact statement I want to look at again said, had some keywords in it. Would not be given newly released products. I don't know that I believe, this is the part I think is bullshit. They say, as such, we have conducted an investigation and found that an error allowed them to access the inventory they were not permitted to handle. I don't actually believe that. I think that's made up and that's BS. I think a lot of the rest of this is probably realistic. So, as far as like an error allowed them to get access to this inventory and sell it, probably what happened is the word or the phrase "an error" actually means a person who works at MSI who approved it. That's not like, I don't think that's a mistake. It just seems so unlikely that that's a mistake. It's probably something that now they decided is a mistake and will not happen again. But I don't think it was initially like, we should explicitly disallow this, and if it happens, then that's an error in the program. I don't think that's really as simple as it was. So, I think that that should kind of wrap up most of the story. I'm trying to keep an eye on everything. Yeah, people laughing at the investigation phrasing from MSI. I think that is probably a little bit overplaying what actually happened. I don't think there was it's not like there was some big FBI internal investigation. I think someone looked at the eBay listing, looked at Reddit, looked at Twitter, said, that's not good. What do we do to reverse that? Like, quick, get all the PR people on the phone. So yeah, I don't think, I think they're kind of overplaying some things a bit. I do think that there was quite a bit of BS with the error part of the statement. I think that the solution, which was refunds permitted, partial refunds permitted, I think that's a good solution. I don't think that would have happened without the outrage. So, and MSI, if its statement is to be believed, the people in charge wouldn't have noticed if not for the outrage. So, yeah, there's give and get here. All right, let me look at the chat and see what's going on. So, a couple things I guess I will kind of note. I do think that, someone says, imagine being an MSI shill. I mean, did you look at our video where we buried their dragon in the ground, and then I proceeded to present emails from 5 years ago that damned them to a complete lack of trust from anybody? I don't know. I mean, anyone who's seen our content knows the deal. All right, this is a good question. Let me try and catch it before it scrolls up. Where is it? See. So, Steve, how much of it is MSI US and how much is MSI in general? Excellent question. So, like a lot of the companies in the industry, MSI has multiple branches, and it has multiple companies that are all sort of in some either connected to or underneath MicroStar International. Cooler Master is a good example. There's Cooler Master, there's Cooler Master Americas, there's a Cooler Master arm that does industry. So there's a lot of different branches. It's a question of how much of it is MSI versus MSI US. MSI headquarters is in Taipei. We've been there. We've done videos there, actually. Most of the decisions from the companies come from their HQ. So for the board partners, almost universally, that's going to be in Taiwan, in Taipei. So like Gigabyte, MSI, EVGA's got a lot of US presence and independence, but definitely Gigabyte, MSI, Asus, they have a Taiwan headquarters, and then they have a US branch. Often the US branch will handle things like US media relations, it'll handle US marketing. The US branches are responsible for explaining to the headquarters, like, here's how our region behaves. So they might say, this is how the press works in our region, or this is how the buyers respond. This is the type of product they like to buy. This is how much they often spend. So that's kind of what the US branch will typically do. Often sales support, warranty, stuff like that, and potentially call centers will be in the branch local to the region that it's representing. So HQ in this case for MSI makes most of the decisions that drive the company, and then the US branch, if it worked the way it's supposed to, which I don't think it does, but the US branch's job should be to push back on HQ and say, no, you're doing this wrong. This isn't how US media works, and this isn't how how the market will respond to the product. So ideally, that's what happens. Gigabyte does a really good job of this, where each of the regions has pretty much independent control over its own region. So you can allow the experts of each region, because all the markets are different, the average income's different, you can allow each region to sort of dictate how things work. So anyway, that's some behind the scenes how stuff works. All right, any L2 fund, Rip J, Rip Slakonzi from PR Captain Planet. And then Johnny SM, I'm not trying to read all the super chats tonight, like I said earlier, said, I got my paycheck today. Here's a bit of support from Serbia. Oh, cool. It's always really cool to see people from around the world watching. It's morning here, 10 a.m., so I got to check this live stream. Thanks for the recap. Yeah, I'm not trying to make this take forever. This isn't like a high-quality news video for us. We could produce it all. I could go through all of the PDFs and documents that the internet produced. At the end of the day, I've got other stuff to do, and it was really late, but we wanted to get this out there so that, frankly, so that we could just kind of, we being GN, could just kind of like move on from the story, do our coverage of it, and I get back to what I need to do. So that's the wrap. Will this delay MSI's official release? I'm not sure. Just trying to see if there's any other important questions. Yeah, I think really the thing that I need to sort of emphasize here is taking the balanced approach to this type of controversy, where like outrage, a bit of it is definitely important because that's how you get movement. Certainly got MSI to react quickly. There's not that many customers. I think there are like 4 items sold from that listing. I don't know how many others there were. There could have been more. But those people do have an option, it sounds like, to get refunded, and hopefully MSI follows through on that. So the little bit of outrage does get that reaction. I think that sometimes in the community, just speaking frankly, it goes like super overboard to the extent that it's just like it's blowing up everything, and no one really has enough time to dig in and research it, and that's not great. In this case, the interesting thing is that because of how popular it was, and because of the timing, which for the most part is unfortunate, that's why I'm doing a live stream instead of a filmed upload. Because of the timing, I was able to call Taiwan headquarters and speak to the right people, and they were like, we didn't know this was happening, like what do we do? So they put in motion the things that needed to get done to get that statement out as quickly as it was. So anyway, is there anything else that, someone says you can't leave, I need reasons to continue not working. Anything else? How many cards were sold? That I'm not 100% positive, except for what eBay tells us. eBay, I think, said 4. I think it said 4 sold and 0 available. But that's for one listing. I don't know if they had multiple listings or not. This is a good one. Do you think Nvidia will be satisfied by MSI's statement? Great question. Nvidia is pretty vindictive, I would say, towards partners in general. And I mean, we've shown, like, it doesn't matter, but Nvidia will typically react very, very, let's go with like an iron fist in some scenarios, but then they tend to back off once everyone's at an agreement of like, okay, this is what really happened, and sorry, we won't do it again. It is a bit of the trouble with how large Nvidia is and how it's like kind of approaching the point where the partners don't have much say, but in this instance, it works out well because Nvidia is able to threaten or promise to punish the partners who do things that are actually bad, obviously. So one thing that's important for everyone to know is that the manufacturers can't dictate a price, that has suggested price. Most of the time, people stick close to it, so can't really dictate a price. Like, a company would not be able to go to an Amazon third-party seller or, I don't know, Best Buy, for example, even, unless they have some sort of other agreement, but wouldn't be able to go to them and say, no, you can't sell this for $750, you have to sell it for $700. So that's actually not legal in the US to do it that way. But what Nvidia and MSI and everyone else can do is use sort of the threat of competition to keep the prices where they're supposed to be, and they can use rebates and incentive programs and do enough to kind of keep the prices in a fixed area. Okay, where do we find the statement put out by MSI? Let me put that on the screen one more time. And also, if you would like to see it yourself, it is on twitter.com/MSIUSA. I don't know if it's case sensitive. I don't think it matters. Lowercase MSI, capital USA, if it does, it's late. That's where you can get the official statement. So, anyway, that's the deal. My thoughts, to just recap those. I think this was a screw up, and I also don't think it's the end of the world. We have been extremely heavy-handed with MSI in the past. I am not afraid of saying what I think here, which is that I think the community overreacted, but I do think that a lot of the initial reaction was justified. The way it kind of spiraled into a snowball made of pitchforks was a little bit much and aggressive, and the problem is it starts to put pressure on media and personalities where people are going to respond without all the details. So like if we made a video before that statement came out, sure, we could have guessed at that, and that was kind of the direction I was leaning, but it wouldn't have been official, so what's the point? So yeah, I do think there was a little bit of overkill by the community. I also think that MSI screwed up, and I think that part of MSI's statement is bullshit. But I do find the solution, which is offering the refunds to people and the partial refund to people. I think that's a good solution at least. So, yeah, MSI's got a lot of things it needs to fix at the company, and this is not terribly surprising that it happened. But again, I am going to give them the benefit of the fact that we're talking about basically one person controlling the eBay listings. I already talked about how we know that, and they probably got allocation. It sounds like they got either B stock, or maybe MSI says an error allowed them to get new stock. Not really clear on what the stock was, but they got some stock and they sold it for way too much money, and they thought this will be great. It'll really make our profits look good. Our margins will be insane, and I'll be recognized for it. And unfortunately, that was exactly the wrong decision to make, especially right now. Totally tone deaf to the industry, totally tone deaf to the discussion of lack of inventory, the scalping, the price of inventory. Really bad look for MSI and potentially for Nvidia, which will piss Nvidia off. So yeah, there's definitely mostly bad, but I don't think necessarily as like MSI is orchestrating this huge evil thing. I don't think it was that far. And I think you all know from our previous video that if I did think it's that far, I would tell you. So that's the recap. I am going to read a couple more chats, and then we're going to close out because it is now 3:58 a.m. And this isn't like a formal news video for us, but hopefully it kind of gets everyone up to speed. We're at about 30 minutes though, and I think I've more than repeated myself at this point, and it's a little bit rambly, but that's what you get with a story like this. I guess I'll say this too. So from purely our perspective working on this, just if you're curious, if you care, but we were looking at, when I say we, I mean me. I was the only one working here at this point. So I was looking at, I need to get 2 to 3 videos filmed for my team tomorrow, so that my team has work tomorrow, so that they can produce content and get paid tomorrow. I also really want to address this thing, and I feel a lot of responsibility and like duty to the audience to address topics like this as quickly as we can and as accurately as we can. So we waited to get all the information, and by the time we got all the information, I looked at the clock and I was like, there's no way. I'm going to have to leave at 8 or 9 a.m. if I film, edit, script a video, because I don't have a team here, obviously, at this time. So if you're curious about the decision making, that was basically it, where I said, all right, we can either not make a video, not discuss this at all, or we can do a live stream. Because there's no other option. I have to film other things after I get off camera here and work on some other content that we're going to be editing tomorrow for the uploads. All right, that's it. So someone says I was listening to this thinking it's an upload. No, it is in fact live. I just wanted to get through it quickly and as accurately as we could while also being quick. So my apologies that it's not up to our normal news video production standards, but yeah, it was either this or nothing at this point, so just because of the timing of everything. Okay, Jared's text says, do it live. That's what we did. I'm going to catch a couple super chats, then close it out. Andre Busen says, Ovidiu and I are happy to see you live here in Romania. Thank you. Once again, very cool to see people from everywhere. Tim Seeley, no message. Let's see. Bobby says, is the shortage of the new Nvidia cards because of a shortage of chips from Nvidia? Ultimately, yes. It's definitely not just because of like the cooler manufacturing, for sure. It's GPU silicon is definitely one of the issues. Maybe memory too, but for sure GPU silicon. Let's see. How are the captions generated before he even speaks? I have no idea. But whatever that technology is, I need it so that I don't need to write scripts anymore. It'll just be done for me. I'll just think at the computer and it'll be done. Let's see. I'm trying to catch a couple of these before I sign off. Storm GC10. Any idea which 3080 and 3090 coolers are performing the best? A little bit of an idea. That Gigabyte Eagle did okay, but really terrible overclocker, unfortunately. I say terrible. Like, it's okay, but it's below average, and there's not much ability to do more, unfortunately. And the 3090s we're just starting to look at, so we'll have a video about those soon. I've got the EVGA one ready to go at this point. We just need to kind of QC it and upload it. So, okay, I'm gonna close it out there. I mean, yeah, thanks for watching. I hope that this was somewhat useful to you, and if not, then sorry. Check the uploads later. All right, I'll see you all next time.